Maybe. Hello, theatrics. Welcome to another edition of the Theatric Dyspraxic Podcast without a jingle. Why is that? Well, we'll get to that in a minute, but I do have a guest today. You probably don't know him, but I've known him for a number of years, and he has agreed to come on my podcast to talk about a few things. So, welcome. We don't have a particular
Thank you.
theme
Thanks.
today. You're welcome. We don't have a particular theme today, but I'm sure there will be a lot to talk about. But before we do that, I feel like there is something that I need to address regarding some of the incidents that took place between me and others in the dyspraxic community recently. Some things have happened that I think it is best to clear the air about. I won't be mentioning any names because I've already gotten myself in a bit deep trouble as it is, and I'll probably continue to do so just by bringing it up here, but I feel like it's always good to provide clarification. And since I know for a fact that my name has been dragged through the mud by others to the point that several have stated that they wish to distance themselves from me, it's important for me to defend myself and my brand as the theatric dyspraxic. I have nothing but respect to those within the community, and many of us just trying to spread awareness and get the talk going about this condition and many other things. But unfortunately, there has been a lot of contention within the community lately, which all strangely started around Awareness Week. And I would be lying if I said I had nothing to do with it, but I think it's important to note that my intentions are never anything but positive, and even if I talk about others, it's only in a constructive and direct manner. If you aren't familiar with what's been going on, basically, I've recently received some backlash over some things I posted on Twitter, which I have since deactivated. Things that had nothing to do with dyspraxia were only my personal thoughts on certain matters that others took the wrong way. I have been labeled a misogynist for simply stating my perspective as a man dealing with some groups of women. While I assert that I do not generalize all women, just like I would not wish anybody to do that to men, there are certainly double standards and issues that favor women and affect men that I think deserve to be mentioned, just like we do with the other way around. No group is immune to criticism. I just think it's always good to see both sides of things. I feel like I'm one of the few people who thinks that way. Having said that, I realized that perhaps it wasn't the best platform to express those views, and perhaps I'm not the person that should be commenting on them. But I have my opinions, and I tend to be rather blunt. I am a strict egalitarian, meaning I view everyone as equal, and I look at the individual. But if you took the testimony of people in certain situations, you will notice a particular pattern of behavior and trend in certain groups. We all have our experiences with them. It's just human nature. And while everybody is different, there are archetypes and classifications. I have a lot of female friends and have never viewed myself as superior or looked down on them for being women. But I do feel there is a problem in our society where if you say something even mildly critical about them, you are labeled as a sexist and are basically treated as a monster. It wouldn't be the first time it's happened to me, and I've certainly seen many men taken down for talking about it. In this current climate, people only want you to call women beautiful, special, and strong, and praise them to the point that they become narcissists. Not all of them, but I think there is certainly a spike because of that. They're not all little angels, and I think the issue is more complicated than we realize. But people generally think of things in simple terms. We should always talk about both sides of these types of issues because it isn't cut and dry or black and white. But anyway, it's because of those types of comments I've made that some in the dyspraxic community have chosen to distance themselves from me, and without confronting me about any of it, have blocked me from all platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. There was one particular individual whose name I won't mention, but if you've heard my previous episode, you'll probably know who I'm talking about. Who, ever since I started this podcast, has been a great friend to me, a good supporter, and a representative to my endeavors. He helped me set up this podcast, has helped promote what I've done, and has helped me find guests. He practically mentored me on this podcast creation, and we've often collaborated and spoken about it. And he was even my inaugural guest. For all that, I am very thankful, and he is certainly doing good things for others. However, despite our close association, this person decided that because he didn't like some of my comments, He no longer wishes to associate with me either publicly or privately, and though he had never approached me out of concern for my statements, he removed himself from my association and blocked me, as did a few others. Now, they have every right to do that. I'm not claiming they don't, but I am hurt by these types of actions, and I think it's unfair and unwarranted to block a good friend of yours without giving them a proper reason or allowing them a chance for appeal. I was never given a chance to explain myself or defend my statements. People that I respected and considered friends turned on me, and for that I feel betrayed. I don't think you should block anybody unless they're harassing you, but I especially don't think you should block someone just because you disagree with their statements, especially someone you've expressed fondness for in the past, and over topics that have absolutely nothing to do with you. Nothing I said was hateful or out of malice, but it certainly has been painted that way. I don't agree with my friends on everything, but that doesn't mean I'll completely cut them out of my life. I think it's immature and rather weak behavior, and ultimately doesn't reflect well a person's ability for conflict resolution. It's just not right. If you have a problem with something your friend does, you come forward and confront them. All anyone has to do, all anyone had to do was message me privately and say, "Hey, I've noticed you've posted some things about women, and I'm afraid it may reflect poorly on your image. Maybe you should consider taking them down." And I would have done it. It's so easy for people to misconstrue a person's statements on social media, especially on Twitter, where you only have a certain number of characters to use to make your point. So I was upset by all of this, but it's not just that I was blocked. I know for certain that my name has also been attacked by others, both publicly and privately. I've seen people refer to my name on Twitter to attack me, saying I do not support Brandon or anything he does, like I'm this infamous, controversial figure or like some kind of cretin. I also know that people have been bad mouthing me privately amongst themselves, trying to detract people from my image because of what they feel I've been doing. And since I'm not part of any of this, I have no way to defend myself to these individuals. So instead, I decided to defend myself and tell my side of the story in the best way I know how, my podcast. Since I don't have the connections others have to the community, as I tend to be a bit of an outsider and a renegade, I'm not the most popular dyspraxic advocate out there. But I have every right to publicly defend myself and tell my side of the story to the very, very small and now smaller audience that I have who listens to any of this. I also know that because of what I've witnessed on behalf of another individual in the group, that people surely talk disparagingly of me behind my back, because they did the same to this person prior to all of this. I was even dragged through all that, even though I had no issue with the guy. The things they said about him made me think there was some kind of witch hunt going on, to the point that he took a break from social media. And now that he's not around, I'm the witch. So I spoke about all of this in my last episode, and I made the mistake of mentioning a few names. I don't always have the best filter, and I don't usually edit these beforehand because I just can't stand listening to my own podcast because I'm not a fan of my voice. In all honesty, I wasn't expecting to receive much attention. I do not regret mentioning this particular individual's name because A, he uses his own full name in everything he does, from his podcast to his organization and all public platforms. I don't even use my full name on here. So he is a public figure, and public figures are allowed to be spoken about in a public setting so long as you are not slandering them. I'm not trying to influence anybody's opinion on this person, and most of you will probably agree with them. I'm just expressing my thoughts and feelings on the whole ordeal. Now, this brings up another issue, something that has happened since that podcast went out. That podcast has also received a lot of backlash from members of the dyspraxic community, at least a certain portion of it. I mean, we're not exactly all connected, so I'm sure most people don't even know about it. But I have been accused by others since then of discrediting and disparaging others for speaking about them in that recording. In fact, this one individual, the main one I've been talking about, has recently threatened to take legal action against me and sue me for defamation of character. I actually find this kind of funny, and I have to make it clear nothing of what I say can be categorized as slander or defamation. Defamation is defined as a false statement about a person that unjustly harms their reputation. Nothing I said about this person was false. They did block me, they did help me on my podcast, and I simply expressed my feelings about their actions. I did not attack his character, and in fact, much of what I said about him was positive. If you take anything else from that, away from it, that's really on you. He was a very positive influence on me, and I think he's doing a lot of good things. But the way that he has treated me as a friend and fellow associate, I feel was wrong. I was hurt by his actions, and if he truly wanted to be fair to me, he would have confronted me about it from the beginning. But rather than owning up to it, he is threatening to sue me. Well, I'm just a 26-year-old American loser who lives with his parents. I have no money, no assets. I live in a different country from him, and he doesn't even know my address or phone number. I'm not afraid of this threat. I would be surprised if he found a lawyer that would take on this case. It would be a waste of his time and money. Also, it should be noted that if anybody's image and reputation has been negatively affected by all this, it's mine. He's the one everyone is siding with. I'm the one who is painted as the villain here. I've lost subscribers, I've lost good friends. I've even been described as toxic, a colorful word that people love to toss around anytime someone does something they don't like. I am not benefiting from any of this, so I don't even know what he's worried about. Not once did anybody care about how this affects me. It's been very stressful, and I've been dealing with a lot of anxiety over it. What's funny is this person was also the one who got me into Twitter in the first place. I told him that social media was a toxic influence on me, but he insisted it'd be a great thing for my platform. It would be great for promoting my podcast and networking with others. I'm not saying he's necessarily at fault, but I find it ironic. Since that episode was put up, which was only a few days ago, I've been asked to not only take it down, but to remove all episodes of my podcast altogether. The composer of my theme song, the intro and outro music, has requested I take down all videos that feature his music, as he wishes to remove his association from me as well. I refused because I found the request unreasonable, and I told him that I will not use it in the future, but I will not take down the previous videos. I find the request utterly ridiculous and a needless effort. This incident does not reflect on him in any way, and he has given me prior permission to use those in the past, and I stand by that. I also want to make it clear that even though I don't think my views or statements are necessarily controversial, whatever I say and do does not reflect on anybody else, even if they associate with me or what I do. I'm not Bill Cosby. I didn't do anything terrible. I didn't do anything reprehensible. There's no point in distancing yourself from me because of statements that I've made that weren't really that bad whenever you think about the context. So people just need to chill out. But out of respect for him, I will not use the jingle in the future, and I will not release the interview I did with him in the past. I feel like this is a lot, since I still believe I'm in the right. And I have stated in the past that if you agree to be my guest, you agree to have your interview released. You can't back out of it afterwards. But out of respect to him, I'm not going to release our interview. It wasn't very good anyway. But I have every right to keep my past videos up, including the interview I did with the other guy, because that interview was used for nothing but positive purposes. And I will state again, I am not discrediting any of the work anybody in the dyspraxic community is doing. I'm not making claims other than what did occur. I was unfairly blocked and openly condemned, and I think people deserve to be called out for it. I'm sure others would do the same to me, and have. The only difference is they're telling particular individuals, and I have no recourse to defend myself. If they call me out, I get to do the same. I am not hurting anybody's image but my own. Also, I have offered to edit out the use of people's names in previous episodes if people can provide me timestamps. I will not remove the whole thing. I'm very pleased with the results, and I'm happy with the statements I've made, but I'm willing to edit out through YouTube the mention of their names if people can provide me timestamps. No one has taken me up on the offer, but those are my terms. All in all, I feel like people are making too big a deal out of this, myself included, but if I simply back down, then I will only be further dragged in the mud, and people will continue to get the wrong idea, which is something that seems to happen to me a lot. I used to be the type of person to just sit there and let it happen, allow myself to be shamed and demonized, but I refuse to do that anymore. I am perfectly willing to drop it, and hopefully this is the last that I need to say about all of this. So that's what I wanted to say. I realized it was a lot, but it was important for me to get it out in the open and clear the air. I hope others can understand. And now that I've said that, I'd like to introduce my guest, my very good friend. Thank you very much for being part of my podcast today. And you're pretty impartial and neutral about all this in this whole situation, but I'm curious about your thoughts about it.
Well, first of all, Brandon, I'd like to just say that was an amazing intro. It was very, very beautiful and well written.
Thank you. I had to write it out beforehand, just to be able to get all my thoughts together.
Well, it just begs the question, though, what exactly is all this about? Because listening to this from an outside view, it sounds quite heavy. But what is it all about? How did this all occur?
Oh, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I don't really, I think that it's all based on a misunderstanding. And I think that, I don't know if dyspraxics have a tendency to be extreme about certain things. I mean, I do. A lot of people that I know in the dyspraxic community have a tendency to kind of to one be a bit stubborn, and also to let their emotions kind of drag things to a point where they take things in an extreme way. And I understand that it's very easy for people to misunderstand the context of someone's statements. I try to give people the benefit of the doubt in just about every situation, or most situations. And if somebody says something that I don't like, I don't have I don't feel like I'm in any, unless it's directed at me personally, and they're like vitriolically attacking me. Uh, I don't think, I just kind of walk away from it. I just kind of ignore it, and I don't think it's.
One of the one of the things I've noticed is that your last episode was by far the most popular episode that you aired uh, from the podcast. Do you think that this recent drama has anything to do with the big boost in your the number of views that you've gotten on that last video that you posted?
Well, it certainly it may be popular in the amount of views, but if you look at the dislikes, uh, then and I've lost a few subscribers. I don't know how many, um, but I guess I really don't know how this video has really been exposed too much. I mean, I've shared it on my Facebook page. Uh, Other than that, like on my Theatric Dyspraxic Facebook page. So I'm sure that the people who have liked that page have come across it. Other than that, I guess people are just sharing it amongst themselves. I guess they're saying, "Oh, he talked about this." Uh, but what I think is that even though it says it has a lot of views, I don't think that people really took the time, or a whole lot of people really took the time to watch the whole thing, because I felt like the things that I said in it were pretty clear and pretty sensible and reasonable. I mean, I said a few things that I could see people finding offense to, like saying stuff about the word queer and things like, and I was joking in that connotation, but I could understand that. But nobody's commented about that. Everyone is just saying, "Oh, you slandered this guy. You said all," and it's like, no, that's not what I did. I've said a lot of positive things about him. It's just I felt like there was a need to address this. But I
Right.
don't think that people have really watched the whole thing, because I think it's just a matter of hearsay. It's like, oh, he mentioned this, and so it's automatically terrible.
Well, regardless of that, the fact of the matter is this is your hottest video in terms of popularity. It has been clicked on and viewed more than any other of your videos on there. So that is quite amazing. How did all this drama ensue? How did this all begin? Tell me and tell everyone listening, how did this happen?
Well, as I've mentioned, I mean, it really all started with things that I posted, some tweets. I said some things, which of course, you can't really, on Twitter, you can't really take, you don't have the space and the amount of characters to be able to fully explain everything. You kind of have to be very simple and use very plain language. Otherwise you'll run out of space to make your point. So it's very easy to, like, if you're talking about a group of people, it's very easy to generalize because you don't have the space to be like, not all of them, not every single one. But so if you say something like, if you're talking about women, just to keep things, a shortened length, you would say, women do this, but you don't necessarily mean that about every single woman in existence, because that would be crazy to generalize every single person when you're talking about 50% of the human race. But I basically just said something about uh, there are or everybody has standards, and everybody is sort of shallow. But the things that women are shallow about are generally down to genetics and things that men can't help. And of course, there were just statements that I made. I wasn't really thinking too much about it. I wasn't expecting people to be so offended by it, which I don't know why I didn't consider that too much. I don't know. I realize that some of the things that I say and some of the things that I think some people might take an issue with, but because they may not understand my full intent or my full meaning of it. But it's all a matter of uh, I do know that there is quite a big population of the dyspraxic community that support women's rights, and I support women's rights too. But I think that it's mainly those types of people that who have taken my statements and took them to heart and took them a bit too seriously, and yeah, and some people have blocked me for it. Some people that were good friends of mine, people that I would speak to, people that I'd message quite often. Uh, and now they felt the need to do that, and I don't think that was justified. And I regret saying some of the things that I say. I regret outing some people, which is why I offered to take down some names, to remove some names from from the last podcast if people can provide me timestamps of when I said them. But when you're recording something and you're just trying to like fill the hour, then things kind of come out and it's like, whoops, I said that, and you don't really keep track of when exactly when you said it. So it's just ugliness. I misspoke, and I think people just took things the wrong way and just took it, a bit too personally, I guess.
Another thing that you've been very displeased with is the intro to the Theatric Dyspraxic Podcast. I believe that we've gotten some negative reviews about the intro, so we are going to be looking also, isn't that right, for a new intro? And we're looking at possibly a guy in California. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I've been trying to ask around about people that might be able to provide some theme music. I probably wouldn't be able to get anybody from the dyspraxic community to do it. One of the things that I liked about my podcast is that the person that did do my music was dyspraxic and is dyspraxic, and it saddens me that even though I'm not the biggest fan of the intro. I mean, I didn't think too much about the music. It was just like, okay, it works. Um, but yeah, finding a better one would be great. I actually considered it's like, okay, we might use this for now, and then maybe he can come up with another one. But I don't think he really spent much time composing it, really, compared to some of the work that he's done for other people, which were a bit more polished. Mine was just kind of like a simple piano riff, and it was fine for what I needed it for. But he does not wish to associate with what I'm doing anymore, which is a shame because he's a very nice guy, and we've had some nice conversations. But it's just the way it is if that's what people want to do. But of course, I'm not gonna take all my videos down and take the intros out. I did receive permission for that in the past, and he told me that he doesn't want the something that he's done to be used for discrediting somebody, and I feel like that is not what I did. I didn't discredit, because if I was going to discredit someone, I would say that this person does not do the proper, the work that the right, he doesn't do things in the right way, I guess. but I'm not saying that at all. It's just what he did to me. I just have a problem with, you know. But hopefully we can get a new jingle, and it'll be good. Find something in the meantime.
Now, Brandon, talk around the internet is that you are an actual up and coming author, and that you're actually in the process of writing a book. Is that what I come to understand here?
Yeah, I've been writing a book, a sort of memoir, which it's always feels weird for me to say I'm writing a memoir because I know that I'm not. It implies that I feel like I'm this big shot, but that's not at all why I was writing it. Um, I felt like my first of all, I've always looked at my life and some of the situations that have happened to me. Sometimes are quite humorous, sometimes it's quite sad. Um, but I always felt like I had somewhat of an entertaining life, and and it's not just what I think, but I've told, stories to people about just little anecdotes from my life, and I thought it would be interesting, and they found it interesting, so I thought it would be interesting to kind of put that in print because some of the things that have happened are about as interesting as what you would find in a work of fiction. And I've always been a big fan of autobiographies and memoirs. I've read quite a few, and some of them are kind of basic. The person just kind of had a basic life, not a whole lot of interesting things happened to them. Other people had a lot of interesting things happening to them. And I also wanted to tell my story as a dyspraxic because growing up, I didn't know what was wrong with me. I had all these issues. And in the process, people tried to find other explanations for some of the issues that I had with my handwriting, with sports, and the way I communicated with people. There was just a lot going on, and people didn't understand why, and I didn't understand why for the longest time. And it led to a lot of emotional turmoil for me, I guess. But it also, I don't know, I kind of went on this journey, and I've learned a lot of things about myself. And I feel like what I am writing, and it's still a work in progress, but I've made a lot of progress on it, and it's definitely getting there. Um, but yeah, I think that I think there's a lot of interesting stuff in it, and I think that when people read it, if they give it a chance, they will find it amusing or entertaining, and hopefully they'll connect with some of it, and they'll identify with some of the experiences that I've had, especially those with dyspraxia. But it's about a
And
lot
it
of other.
says here, in your bio that you're actually an actor as well. Is that correct? You've done some acting work.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've been doing theater uh pretty regularly since I was about 14, so about 12 years, I guess. Since I was about in the eighth grade, that was the first time that I did my first major production, which was called Dinner with the MacGuffins, and it was a one act play. Every year in Texas, they have one act play competitions, and schools from all around. Well, they have it in various areas within Texas, and whatever area you're in, different schools, they come together and they perform, various one act play competitions, which are usually 30 to 40 minutes, and they do one after another, and then they're critiqued by a judge. And the first time I did that was my first. I mean, I was very shy at that age. I had a hard time talking to people. I had a hard time putting myself out there, and so I was very nervous and very afraid, especially since I had a tendency to kind of mess things up for everybody accidentally. So I was very worried about that. And then the moment that I took that step out onto the stage, I was in front of the audience. I just felt this like calming peace. And ever since then, I've always done plays. A year after that, I was the star in the next year's one act when I was in high school. I was only a freshman, and I was the lead in that show, and I won an best actor medal for it. I mean, they had several best actor kind of things. It wasn't just like I was the best actor of all of them. It was just like for my production, I won best actor, and I felt very good about it. And I continued doing it throughout high school, and then after high school, in the different towns that I lived in, I would get involved with community theater. And some of my productions are filmed and online on YouTube. Um, and yeah, I've done all sorts of acting. I'd love to do more, but unfortunately, with this pandemic, it's been hard to do that. But I still try to find other ways to lend to performing. I like to do readings. I've done some readings on here. I'd like to do more in the future. I do something called theatric readings, um, and I do that in different contexts and something that I'd like to do. But uh, I love to just do it.
Can you talk a little bit more about some of the awards that you have won for your work in the past?
Well, when I was 7, I won an award for writing called a Rising Star Award, and the only thing I remember about that is it was for a story that I wrote that was not very good. It was like a parody of The Three Little Pigs, and it was about three rabbits, and they make houses out of food. And the first rabbit made a house out of pizza. The second rabbit made a house out of Kit Kat bars, and the third rabbit made a house out of jalapenos. And so the wolf would come by and they would eat, the house of pizza, the house of Kit Kats, and he tried to eat the house of jalapenos, and it was too hot for him, and he ended up running away. Um, it was really kind of silly, but I won an award for it. And what's funny is this is one of the odd things about people having different memories of certain events, because I remember being disappointed that I didn't go get to receive my certificate in person. There was supposed to be some kind of uh, ceremony, not really like a big lavish ceremony, but some kind of like little thing where I was allowed to walk up and get my certificate. But I didn't get to go, and I remember being in the car, and my dad was like, "Oh, we can't go all the way to Austin to pick up this thing," and I was just really disappointed about it. But I spoke about it a few years ago, and my dad said, "No, we went, and you got it in person." So, but I've won some awards through high school for acting and doing theater. Every time I did a one act play, I usually won some kind of like trophy or a medal. Other than that, I haven't really won. I'm not. I haven't made too many accomplishments in that department. Oh, I did win an award my sophomore year of high school because I used to make videos with some friends of mine, and I won an award for making videos for video production. So that was nice.
Can you talk about some of the verbal accolades that you have gotten for some of your work? What are some of the things that people have complimented you on? And can you talk a little bit about those compliments in detail?
Um, I over the years I've had people say some pretty flattering things about my acting and my writing, which, I'm not the kind of person. I'm very modest. I don't usually get a big head. I mean, I can't say I don't have any sort of ego. But I don't ever look at myself and be like, I'm so great. I'm the best actor out there. I'm the best podcaster. I'm the best writer. Because I always, I have insecurities like everybody. So oftentimes, if a night's not going well, if a performance didn't go well, I'll sulk about it. I'll brood about it. If I'm not happy with something I've written, then I'll just like, oh, this is crap, and I'll kind of toss it aside and then work on it again. Distance myself from it and then come back to it. Um, so I doubt myself a lot, but normally when people comment about my creative stuff, it's usually positive. I haven't got a lot of. I mean, over the years, I've had some negative feedback. In fact, I had somebody when I was a freshman in high school, a critic for one of our one act plays. We used to do these things called clinics where you would go and you would perform it for a judge, and they would critique and give you notes and stuff. And this lady said that I was the worst actor she had ever seen. So that hurt me a lot. But I've improved a lot as an actor since then. And I've had small roles in shows, and I've had audience members come out and say that I was their favorite character because I took that small role and made it memorable, which I think is great. And I remember when I was about 20, I did a play called It's a Wonderful Life. That was a Christmas play, and I played Uncle Billy. I was an old man, very forgetful, kind of guy. And then 2 months later, in February, I did a production of And Then There Were None, and I played this like young hotshot, very arrogant British guy, and just a totally different character. And I remember somebody from It's a Wonderful Life came to see it, and when they came out of the theater, they said, "I just don't understand how you were able to become such a different person. I could barely even recognize you because you just played that character so convincingly, and it was so different from Uncle Billy." And it's just like, wow, that's very that's very nice of you to say. I've had people comment on my facial expressions. People always say I have very good facial expressions. My physical comedy, I guess, is great. People have said that I have a nice speaking voice, which I don't really hear myself, but some people have said that, which is nice. Um, and also, as far as my writing goes, I've written lots of song lyrics, and I've written some pilots, and I've always gotten good feedback from that. And I don't, this is somebody else said this, but I don't. So it's not me saying this, but I've actually been called a genius before, which that kind of borders on the realm of, how do you take something like that, something that's so nice and so positive, you know, I mean, it's such a huge compliment to be called that, but
Yeah,
yeah.
well, that's one thing I think everybody listening to this can definitely agree on is that you have a very high um, cognitive ability, um, very, very great mental abilities. With the success of your writing and acting, how and of course we get a lot of um, feedback here online about the girls complimenting you on your good looks and your charm. How is it being a young writer actor? How is it with the young ladies out there?
Um, wow. Well, I mean, I don't really get a lot of attention from them, but then again, I don't really these days. I'm not really in a position of putting myself out there. But I mean, I have been involved in like productions where people seem to be kind of charmed by my demeanor, my acting abilities, but also my agreeableness. I can charm people when I'm doing a production. I tend to entertain people even backstage, even in the green room when we're not in front of an audience. But I'm like, I'll dance to a musical number or something like that. And I think women like people that can make them laugh, and I can't always make people laugh, but sometimes I can. And so I've been in situations where people, I don't know, I feel like the qualities that I have as a person, I think they come out a lot more when I'm doing theater, either, whether I'm on stage or backstage. They tend to come out during those types of situations. I guess it's because that's where I'm most comfortable and most confident, is whenever I'm in a theatrical setting. So I think that because of that kind of confidence and that kind of comfort with myself, um, I think people notice that more. And it doesn't happen all the time, but there have been situations where somebody will develop a little crush on me because I make them laugh or something like that. And um, yeah, I mean, I've shown some girls the things that I've written, some of the songs that I've written, and they were very pleased by them. I don't know if it influenced, you know, their feelings of me in a romantic sense, but they definitely respected me as an artist for that, which is great.
One of the things that is also a trademark of yours is you're incredibly fit. Um, how exactly do you stay so fit? What is your diet and your exercise regimen like? Can you walk us through a little bit of your daily diet and exercise routine?
Oh man, you're gonna be a bit disappointed. um, I mean, that's nice of you to say. I don't know exact how fit I really am. I mean, I definitely could be working out more. Um, but I don't know. I've always had an issue with food, compulsive eating and eating to kind of deal with anxieties and stuff like that. But I always get to a point where it's like enough is enough, and I got to start eating less. I got to start restricting what I eat and not consume as many calories. And I got to start a workout regimen. But as a dyspraxic, it's really hard for us to motivate ourselves and to stick to certain routines and patterns. So I don't always stick to like a consistent workout schedule. But usually I find myself getting around to it because I don't want to get to the point where I'm too out of shape. And I mean, I know the feeling of being out of shape and being overweight and not healthy at all. And it's not really a feeling that I want to go back to. I can't really say that I'm the healthiest person or that I'm the most fit person, but I do try. And I mean, I walk all the time. I walk every day. Uh, and I'm always on my feet. I very rarely sit down. Like I'm sitting down right now, and I kind of wish I could be up and walking around, but hey, because that's usually what I am, unless I'm watching TV or I'm laying down to go to sleep or something. Oftentimes I'm just kind of pacing around. So I think that helps, just being active, no matter what you do. And if you have to drink soda, maybe drink 0 calorie kind. I mean, I can't advocate that because that's not exactly the healthiest alternative, but you won't consume as many calories doing that. So I don't know. I guess it depends on your interpretation of it.
Now, recently you've been accused of saying some pretty heinous things in regards to women. Now, on one side, that's what one side is saying. The other side, you and others have said that it's not right for a group or community to throw a person out without having that person plead their case or appeal. I personally would lean towards your direction. I believe that everybody deserves certainly a second chance. Um, this is a trend that we are seeing more in society, isn't it?
Yeah.
People just tossed aside, uh, you know, uh, for making one mistake, for saying something out of place. They're tossed aside and permanently outcast from the group. Um, do you believe that this is what happened to you in this situation here?
Well, I mean, I can only say that it's happened to certain individuals. People are distancing themselves more and more from me, and I think it's because of how they feel about my behavior. They feel like what I'm doing isn't right, and I understand that perspective. I respect that, but I also feel that what I'm doing is justified. I'm not attacking people. I'm not trying to further divide anybody. I just think I always feel like the truth is the most important thing, and it's always best to give clarification. And if somebody is saying something about you and painting you in a certain light, then I think that rather than hide away from it and ignore it, it's better to just kind of face it head on and own up to things that you did, but also kind of steer the story in the direction that says, no, this is what actually happened. This is my side of it. I think it's fair to be given the benefit of the doubt. And I guess the reason I feel that way is because that's what I do to others. I always give people the benefit of the doubt. And I would never block somebody because of something that I saw them post. Even if it was about me, I usually would confront them privately if that happens. But I wouldn't just block somebody just because, I saw something that they posted. If you wish to dissociate yourself from me, that's one thing. But to just block me on every platform of yours because of something that has nothing to do with you, I don't know. I just feel like that's just shady behavior. I don't know.
Do people that have been tossed aside, do they have the right for redemption? Should they be given a second chance for redemption?
I mean, of course, it depends on what they did. I mean, if we're talking about like a Chris Watts or something, then no. You murder your whole family, you pretty much ruin your chances at redeeming yourself. But if it's something that you've said, I mean, we've all said things that we regret. We've all said things in the heat of the moment. And I think what it does, I think it speaks to a larger issue, which is the toxicity of social media. And the fact that it is so easy for a thought to pop into your head and then you can express it. Because we've all said things even before the internet. We would have conversations with people, and maybe we'll slip something out in the moment that maybe isn't like the nicest thing, and then the heat comes off of you. You kind of walk away from it. You just kind of forget about it. And the same kind of goes for social media, except that's more public. It's out there more, and it kind of stays out there. You might forget about it, and then it comes back to bite, back around to bite you. And that's happened to me, and it's happened to a lot of people. Sometimes, and it's just because of how easy it is to do that. And I think some people just shouldn't be exposed to social media so much. But I think also other people should take things that they see online with a grain of salt and realize that maybe there's another side to this. Maybe this person said this because they were angry or they were upset about something or they're frustrated. There's a number of causes. I think it's best to just kind of take somebody, don't judge, don't identify somebody with what they do online. Look at their character from when you interact with them. Do you know this person? Do you see them in person, or do you talk to them in a different setting? Do you call them? Do you Zoom with them or Skype with them? What are they actually like? Are they kind? Are they agreeable? Are they fun? A lot of people that interact with me in this kind of setting and where I'm just having a conversation, they tend to get a lot of enjoyment out of it. They tend to enjoy actually talking to me. But most of the contention that has happened, most of the conflicts and feuds in my life have resulted from social media. And it's sad because social media is also a good way to connect with people. And that's why I've kept social media, but it's a double-edged sword. It has these negative results, and then it has, the positive results where you can meet people and you could connect with people, even if you're not with them. So it's a slippery
Critics
slope.
have said for critics have said for years that you are a narcissist, that you're a man that will write a book about himself and talk about himself endlessly. To those critics, what say you?
I don't I don't think there's a whole lot of people saying that. Um, I mean, very few people really know about the book, and yeah, I mean, I think that's a little bit exaggerated, but if people think that I'm a narcissist, well, what can you say? You know, um, that's a hard thing to define, I think. Because what is a narcissist? We generally view a narcissist as I think there's two types of narcissists. There's the overt, and then there's the covert. And I think the covert narcissist is more complicated of a type of person, and I think a lot of people exhibit traits of covert narcissism, um, where it's not necessarily, well, it's not overt, which there's no overt narcissism, which is where you basically have these grandiose views of yourself, like our president, um, or was Noam Chomsky or whatever. He was very full of himself. I think that's what I'm thinking of. But I I don't know. It's a very complicated thing. I don't think I'm a narcissist because I don't view myself as better than everybody. I don't necessarily think I'm more entitled to things as other people, but I think I'm entitled to the same opportunities and the same respect that most people get, and I don't feel like I get that from a lot of people. So I think it's easy to say that I play the victim or that I feel entitled, um, because I do feel like often I get unfairly treated, and I don't know if that says something about me or if it says something about just the people that have been in my life. Obviously, it's not everybody. I've met some really great people who treat me just fine. But I've also, in a lot of groups, I've been kind of treated in this sort of manner where it's like some minor thing minor transgression, it just becomes blown out of proportion. And I become painted as this, I don't know, bad guy.
Are you more of a hunter or a gatherer?
Hmm. Interesting question. Hmm. I guess it depends on what you're hunting or gathering. I guess what context. I mean, I'm always hunting for opportunity, I'm always looking for something else that I can write, something else I can read, some kind of performance. And I'm always looking for new friends. I mean, saying you're a hunter kind of sounds sinister, but I guess hunter, I mean, it's hard to say because they're very similar concepts, I guess, unless you're talking about actual hunting and gathering. This is an interesting setup.
What critical feedback do you most often receive?
Hmm. What critical feedback do I most often receive? I get called whiny. I guess some people have said that I bum them out, which I don't mean to, but I guess that's easy to do, especially when you suffer from depression, which I have for many years. So I think that that just becomes part of your daily life. But in an artistic setting, I mean, people often say that I'm good at what I do, that I work very hard to create characters, and um, a lot of it's positive. But as far as like social media, I mean, that's the only, other than certain instances where it was somebody else's issues, and they kind of took them out on me. Most of the negative things that people say about me are online, and that's only a fraction of a person's being. So I wouldn't necessarily take that too seriously, although sometimes I do, which I shouldn't.
What is your biggest weakness?
My dyspraxia. That gets in the way a lot. Uh, I have a hard time maintaining focus, and because I have a hard time maintaining focus, it's hard to stick to things, to anything really. Even like a task, like cleaning your room or something. I mean, my room's not a total mess. I mean, there's some clutter in here because it's not just my room, but um, I guess my lack of focus, my lack of concentration. But I try to follow through with things. Um, but other than that, I mean, other people might say that I often butt heads with people, but that is never intentional. And usually somebody butts heads with me first. You know, it's usually not. It usually doesn't start with me.
What is your greatest achievement?
This podcast. Hmm. I guess my greatest achievement is probably my book. To be honest, the things that what I've written, I'm very happy with it so far, even though it's not complete. I've worked very hard on it. I've worked for a little about a year and a half, and I'm still working on it. It's still very much a work in progress, but it's hard to describe. Um, but I think that I'm getting to the point where the language that I've used for it and the wording, I think, is getting much better. I think it's telling the story that I want to tell. It's hard to describe the book and say that it's so interesting or something, without was just showing people what it, showing the result. Um, and I guess the strides that I've made with my dyspraxia, the fact that I'm able to write a book, that I've written so much that I've written, and that I've done all the plays that I've done, that I've managed to break through my stage fright and my anxiety, and be able to act and perform, and be able to put myself out there, even though I have social anxiety and I have body dysmorphia and I have self-image issues. I'm able to still do it regardless and push through it, uh, and still have people say that I'm talented and skilled. I mean, I just feel like I've overcome a lot, um, but there's still a lot for me to overcome, I feel like.
I've got one final question for you. Um, with you now out of the dyspraxic group, that group now losing its most arguably valuable and entertaining and, of course, controversial member,
Well, I don't
will
know
that
about that.
group be able to survive and thrive without this bright personality that used to be there?
Well, I do have to disagree. I don't think I'm the most controversial. There is another member that I've spoken about in the beginning that I think people was maybe I don't know, maybe I am leaning towards being more controversial, but the thing to note about the dyspraxic group is that it isn't just like one humongous group, and I'm not necessarily out of it either. It's certain individuals that, and maybe that number will increase. And I don't know. I haven't. Nobody has said, "Oh, we kick you out of this group," because it's not one. It's kind of a group, or it's a series of groups, and then like smaller subgroups. Like we would have Zoom meetings on Fridays with a certain group of people, and I became friends with many of them. Now I'm not friends with some of them. Some of them haven't really commented on what happened, and some have just said, I'm going to stay out of it. A couple of people are still fine with me. They still, we've spoken, and they just don't really take any sides. It doesn't affect them. And they're kind of like me in the sense that they give people the benefit of the doubt. And of course, I don't know. It's still just been a couple of days, and who knows what people are going to say in the future. I mean, once this is released, people might have some more problems. So it's hard to say, but hopefully, hopefully I can clear the air with people and just say, hey, this is really not that big a deal. It shouldn't be seen as such a big deal. And I'm sorry that it kind of blew up to this point, but I don't know. It's just kind of, I've noticed that there's a lot of contention anyway, and a lot of the little subgroups are kind of like crumbling. There's a lot of divisiveness between people. A lot of people are kind of butting heads now, not just me. I mean, for a while, I was kind of staying out of it. I wasn't really one of the people that people were having an issue with. And now, just because of some things that I've said, um, now I've become kind of a victim of that too. And I don't know, I just kind of want this whole thing to blow over already. But I'm not going to take anything down. And if people view that as being stubborn or whatever, let them think that. But I think that it's good to have a record of sort of what's been happening, so that that people can understand the different perspectives of it, whether you're dyspraxic or whether whether you're involved in it or not. Just these types of things. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying.
Well, Brandon, I would like to thank you for inviting me onto your podcast here to interview you. I had a great time. Very interesting topic. I absolutely love talking about you. And I do want to thank you again for having me on here to, you know, interview you.
Well, I
Thank you
wasn't.
so. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being a fan, and thank you for being a friend. I wasn't expecting the conversation to turn into that, to be honest, but it was definitely interesting. All right, well, I guess that's it for this podcast, and thanks to those who are listening, and thank you for my friend for coming on here today and interviewing me. And I'm glad that I was able to kind of clear the air and talk about some of the things that have been going on. And hopefully in the future, I can just continue to do this podcast and have people on from various backgrounds to talk about various different things. And I'll continue to do podcasts where it's just me talking. And I won't be addressing this matter publicly any further, but hopefully people can understand my situation and my side of everything and can understand my decisions and my terms for everything. So thank you all for listening. And I guess we don't have an outro for this, but hopefully we'll find one soon. Bye bye.